Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly review Dice Legacy. This is a game that's coming to Steam on September 9th, 2021. I'm recording this roughly 2 days prior to that, so for the most part, what you're looking at here should be reflective of the finished product. Wow, folks. Wow. Let me just tell you, I am hooked. I am addicted. This is one of the best Dice games I've ever played. What is Dice Legacy? Well, it's a dice-based survival city builder. And the world itself is this ring. It takes some getting used to. Rather than rotate around the globe, you're just going to be navigating up and down, at least in a vertical sense. You're going to be like just moving up and down on this ring and building outward from there. So it's kind of two-dimensional, but, you're just moving in one direction, just up. But again, you're on this ring. So what are you going to do? Well, first you pick a scenario, then you pick your leader. The scenario that I had access to was just Stranded. That was just the first one. You unlock more as you play. You also pick a leader. Again, I only had one to choose from at the start. There's more that you unlock by completing achievements, and therefore, as you keep playing, you'll unlock more stuff. But once you do that, you pick a difficulty. There's 5 of them. And there's even a relaxed mode where let's just say any enemy encampments or hostile encampments will not directly attack you until you attack them. So you kind of have to initiate that battle, which is nice. So you can sort of play on this mode, just relax, learn the game without the fear of being attacked. That's the game mode difficulty that I'm playing on right now, and it has allowed me to just mindlessly learn this game at my own pace. It's so good. So how does the gameplay loop work? All right, so you've got this pool of dice, okay, and each of these dice are different colors. There's 5 classes. There's yellow, there's red, blue, green, and purple. And they each represent something different as far as class goes. Like you've got yellow peasant dice and blue soldier dice, red merchant dice. I think purple is monk and green is citizen or something like that. So, and each of these classes has different faces on their dice. You start with just peasants. That's it. And you're tasked with rolling these dice and using their faces to interact with the environment. Some spots in your immediate area might be like harvest food via hunting ground, or mine stone over here, or mine iron over there, gather wood at the shoreline, that kind of thing, or chop wood in the forest. You're going to need a specific symbol for that. Okay, dice symbol, or dice face, whatever. So you're going to be assigning dice to these various locations, and then you're going to wait a period of time. The game plays out in real time. It's not turn-based, it's real time. So you might wait 30, 40 seconds for that action to be done, or your series of actions to be done, and you'll get the dice back. Now, they will be exhausted, so you have to roll them again. Every time you roll a die in this game, its durability goes down. Think of durability as life. If the durability hits 0, then you lose the die. So you have to find ways to replenish it. Luckily, you get a building very early on that lets you spend food and put the die at that location to bring its durability back up. So think of it as feeding your villagers and making them strong again. Okay? That's how I look at it anyway. And that's what you're doing. You're also going to be constructing buildings on this hex-based grid, and you'll be able to send, eventually, these peasants over to them to work at those locations. For example, you can put down a herbalist's hut next to a bunch of forest tiles, and if you then assign the villager to the herbalist hut, there's a chance that they will find herbs because they'll be looking in that nearby forest. Okay, it's not always 100% chance that they'll succeed, but, you can try. Speaking of resources, there are quite a bit of resources in this game. Most of it's going to be raw materials and food, but there are some other things you'll have to worry about. For example, there's food, and then, you'll be using food primarily to feed your villagers. as they need to replenish their durability. There's wood, stone, gold, iron, wheat, ale, and herbs. And these more advanced resources like herbs and ale, they're going to be using them in different places. There's a lot to get into, so I don't want to get like too deep into what they do. But you'll be able to spend these resources in different locations to, again, do different things. Um, Once you get past peasants, meaning the yellow dice, you'll be able to eventually build buildings that allow you to convert yellow dice into some other color. So you can start getting green dice, and then using those symbols do some unique things. Or this building might convert yellow dice into purple dice, which are monks. And then monks can do unique things because they have unique die faces. And then you're going to be constructing buildings that are unique to monks that will help you grow your civilization a little bit. There are two different ways to grow your civilization, via technologies and via policies or your council. There is a building that you get in this game called a workshop. And whenever you assign enough dice faces that are books, there's a book dice face in this game. You assign enough books to it, it works, then you get a point, a technology point. Then you open your tech tree. There's like 7 different tabs to go through, and there's roughly, I want to say, 8 to 15 per tab. So there's quite a bit to get through, but these techs are great because they will improve your civilization in a number of ways. The gathering tree, for example, every time you gather wood, you gain 1 wood from the forest. If you take a technology to increase that, you'll get like 2 wood for every time you harvest from a forest tile or something like that. So, and that's important because these tiles are finite. You can only gather wood from a forest tile so many times before it's gone, or mine stone from a tile so many times before it's gone. So typically by researching these techs, you get more bang for your buck every time you visit these locations. There's expansion in this game as well. And you'll be creating these district halls, okay? They're like outposts, think of them as. And they'll allow you to access new areas of the map so that then you can start harvesting from those resources once you run out of the ones that you have now. Speaking of policies, I meant to get to that first. Council. You have a council, and every so often you'll be asked to choose one of 3 policies. And these policies are varied, and they are color-coded as well. So if you pick the yellow policy, which might be, say, fur coats, dice are immune to freeze while used in peasant districts. I'll explain that in a minute. There's a lot to go over here, folks. But if you pick a yellow policy, the peasants, the peasant faction will be happy. That's what you want. If peasants happen, or if any faction happens to be happy or sad, different things will happen. Make them very happy and you get a benefit. Anger any of the 5 factions and there's some sort of detriment. So you kind of want to pick the policies that help you out in the immediate and long term, but also kind of make the factions happy too. Speaking of faction happiness, that's something you're gonna have to manage every now and again. For example, every time you collect taxes from a particular faction, they hate it. It's how you get gold primarily, but they hate it. If you happen to organize a fair, which is a type of building, you can basically throw food and ale their way, and that makes them happy. If you approve one of their policies, they get happy. If you happen to grow their faction by getting more dice of that particular color, then they're happy. If you convert dice away from their color, they get mad at you. So you have to manage these happiness bars across all 5 factions. Again, if they get too angry, then bad things happen, and each faction has their own way of treating that. So you'll have to sort of pick and choose if you really have to. You have a dice limit of 12. So, you're going to start with a bunch of yellow dice in the beginning, grow your yellow dice up to maybe 12, 11, 12. Then you start converting those yellow dice into green, maybe blue or purple or red. And again, you'll be having to make these decisions as you play. Do it too quickly, though, and the peasants will hate you for it. So you kind of have to do it slowly over time. Deep breath. There's still a lot to go over. Dice manipulation. Yes, there are ways to upgrade your dice in this game. There's something called an enhancement chamber that allows you to upgrade dice faces on your dice to make them more powerful. And that's important because, like, if you build a field, the field might require 2 gear symbols. So what you could do is you could assign 2 dice to it, and each would have 1 gear symbol on it. So this die has a gear symbol, this die has a gear symbol. You put both on that field, bam, they work at it. Great. But that's 2 dice that you've used up. And that's 2 dice that are going to have less durability when they come back and you have to re-roll them because they're exhausted. Or you can assign a die with a gear symbol with a power of 2 or 3 on it. Or 2, as long as it's 2 plus. You can assign that 1 die to that field and it'll work it by itself because it has enough power to do so. Getting back to the example of the town square, which allows you to throw food and ale their way to please a faction, that requires 3 gear symbols. Well, if you have a die that has 3 gear symbols on it, you only need 1 die to work there, and that's that. So you'll be upgrading dice faces in this game to make your dice more efficient. In addition to that, there's a forge that lets you combine 2 dice into 1 die and combine their faces. Now, it's random, it's RNG, but in doing so, these 2 dice become what's called a construct die. And that's important because not only do they gain special traits, which are like passive bonuses for that die, or even negative things, you can also increase a die face from a maximum of 4 to a maximum of 8. So you'll be able to upgrade dice further if you turn it into a construct die. Otherwise, regular dice faces are stuck at 4 power max. But by combining dice out of forge, you'll be able to make dice faces go all the way up to 8. So you can make them super powerful. However, you run the risk of getting dice faces that you don't want. Because again, you're taking 12 different faces from 2 dice and combining them into 6 faces. So you're going to lose some dice faces. And, you know, that might be sad. And also, you may get a negative trait. I did it. I just to test it out. I combined a green die and a yellow die, and I got a construct die with a negative trait on it. Max durability is halved. So now it has a durability of 7, and I have to feed it more often than I would typically would, because it's every time I use it, it's almost at 0. It's just, it sucks. I hate this die. I really do. I'm tempted to kill it off just so I can, you know, do something, just get a new peasant and start all over from scratch. But that's it. I mean, that's another cool thing that you can do in this game. In addition to that, I mentioned districts, right? There's these district halls that you can put down to expand your territory. You can upgrade them to be faction specific. That is cool because some of the policies that you enact that you get every so often, you know, give you bonuses. Like I have a policy right now that gives me the possibility of earning a free tech point for every civilian district that I have. So I built a ton of civilian districts, and every season or every year, whatever it is, I usually get a nice income of research without even having to spend any books at the workshop to do it. So there are a number of ways to passively earn just by building these districts. It's really cool. There's a lot more to go over, folks. I know I'm kind of running long on this, and I apologize. Just a couple of other quick things. Your leader that you choose has a special ability. If you roll dice and get the right combination, his ability will activate. My ability for the starting character, for example, will treat frozen dice. Yes, dice can be frozen in this game. There's a seasonal thing going on here. During the winter time, if you don't have... There's a building that you can build called a steam generator. Think the generators from Frostpunk. They have a limited range, but they heat everything in the area. Same thing with this steam generator. By having that on, by spending wood and turning it on, every surrounding building can be worked on during the winter without the risk of citizens becoming frozen. When a die becomes frozen, by the way, you can't use it anymore unless you send it to the apothecary to get treated, and you have to spend herbs to do that. So there are ways to treat dice. You can also wound dice in this game. For example, if you investigate ancient ruin, and there's like an RNG chance, 50% chance that something bad will happen, but you get something cool. If it gets wounded, you have to send it to the apothecary. Otherwise, if it gets wounded again, you lose the die permanently. So there are multiple status effects in this game, too, that you'll have to contend with. Again, I didn't cover every single thing. There's more to talk about. That being said, I'll just simply say that this game, I am so impressed with it. I'm 9 hours in. Typically, I do 2, 3, 4 hours, and then I take a break. I've been playing this all day. It's so good. I hold a DGA Awards every year, and this is going on it. Hands down. It is that good. If you like the idea of different colored dice with different dice faces helping you to build your very own city, then totally check this out. There's also some healthy resource management going on here. There's dice manipulation, dice upgrading. You do have to worry about tile adjacencies sometimes because, like I said, you've got these districts, and these districts sometimes will give you bonuses based on what's in them. So you want to make sure you've got some adjacency bonuses going on there if you can help it. There's also some light combat in this game. The scenario that I'm on tasked me with taking out the others, whoever they are. And all I have to do is drag my sword die faces over top of their buildings, and they get destroyed. I have not beat the scenario yet. And again, I'm 5 to 6, 7 hours in at this point. So yeah, very light combat. I did choose the relaxed difficulty, however. I assumed that if I were to play normal or above, that I'd have to defend myself more often. Because there are like minor factions that you'll run into in this game. Think of them as like minor factions in Civilization where, you can make them happy or make them angry. Sometimes they'll give you something, but primarily you can spend dice faces at these settlements, these neutral settlements, to do something, typically like you would anything else. So yeah, this game is fantastic. Time controls as well, so if you find yourself in a lull, you can speed up time or even pause it just to take stock of what's going on and what you should do next. My only complaint, I have one complaint. Because the world is on this ring, sometimes my depth is a bit off, and it's hard to see the sides of the screen. Like, I can't zoom out. So if I want to click on a building or see what's going on a particular building that's on the far left or on the far right, I have a hard time seeing it unless I scroll up or down just right. That's my biggest gripe with the game. I wish I could zoom out just a little more so I can see everything without having to just get the camera just right to see those buildings. Other than that, so good. Totally recommend this game when it does release. If you guys haven't already, subscribed to me on Twitch and YouTube. That way you can stay up to date with any new content I'm going to publish. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.